Right, guys, we don't often get these free speech victories in this day and age, but when we do, it is important to point them out. You certainly won't be able to point it out in Scotland with the SNP and their future hate crime laws that will see you locked up for even thinking something spicy and saying it in the privacy of your own home. But in England now, you should be able to speak at least somewhat freely on social media because the High Court has ruled we all have the right to offend people regardless of their so-called protected characteristics or anything else. Obviously, you can't go after them for said characteristics, but offending them is now apparently fair game under the law. With any sort of luck, this will signal to the virtue signalling tosspots at the top of the police forces that running around policing Twitter is not your job, and actually has no basis in law beyond what is already illegal, like threatening someone as we know. Maybe YouTube and all other social media platforms need to take this ruling into account and stop banning people for being a bit spicy on the internet. Of course, they won't do that. They are the social media censorship police, here to control the narrative and the way you think. But Breitbart picked up on this free speech win here with the headline, "Free Speech Victory. Judge rules social media users have the right to offend." England's High Court has struck a rare victory for free speech, overturning the conviction of a Twitter user who called a transgender person a man and ruling that people have the right to offend others online. Because obviously they do. Offence is taken, not given, as I've said many times before, and should be a given at this point. Mother of two, Kate Scotto, had been convicted under a section of the Communications Act, which makes persistently making use of a public electronic communications network to cause annoyance, inconvenience, or needless anxiety to another a crime, following an argument with lawyer and trans activist Stephanie Hayden, who is legally a woman according to a gender certificate obtained in 2017. District Judge Margaret Dodds decided that Mrs. Scotto had broken the rule to be kind to each other and not call each other names, but Lord Justice Bean and Mr. Justice Warby at the Divisional Court of the High Court overturned her judgment as deficient and flawed on appeal, which makes me question why this district judge is not being punished for this. What the fuck was she actually thinking doing something like that if the High Court can just overturn it that easily? It goes on, the judge appears to have considered that a criminal conviction was merited for acts of unkindness and calling others names, but a prosecution under section 127(2)(c) of the Communications Act for online speech is plainly an interference by the state with the defendant's convention right to freedom of expression, which is not something you'll hear from a court often these days. Freedom of expression has been dying for a long time now. This court and these justices here appear to be trying to bring it back on social media anyway. The senior judges said that if the case had been approached by the original judge in a legally correct manner, it should have been dismissed. Going back to what I said earlier, how the fuck is this district judge, Margaret Dodds, still in post? What the fuck is going on there? She has blatantly not acted in a legal manner, as they have said there. So the case should have been dismissed, as should she. It goes on, "This has been the hardest battle I have fought that has a profound impact on every aspect of my life, from my career to my health and my marriage," said Scotto in comments to The Telegraph, hailing the victory in her favour as a victory for freedom of speech, that no one has the right not to be offended, which obviously should just be a fucking given at this point. So what if someone offends you? Suck it up and go and fuck off at the end of the day. If you can't take it, get off the internet. It was necessary to enshrine one of the most fundamental rights of every living being in a democratic society, the right to freedom of speech, that is now routinely attacked at such a fundamental level, she continued. Women fighting for their rights against an aggressive LGBT lobby have been silenced for the past 3 years. I hope this judgment gives them hope, which is actually something we have seen many times on Twitter. You say something on Twitter and all of a sudden you're a transphobe or this and that. It is actually ridiculous, wasn't it? The Harry Potter author or something that was recently attacked for something along these lines, including someone like the Body Shop joining in against her. Either way, it's fucking pathetic, and I'm glad that the court have actually done something that they should be doing, especially given how piss poor they've been on a variety of other things. Toby Young for the Free Speech Union added that he is hopeful this judgment sends a message to chief constables. They've been getting their officers to spend far too much time sifting through people's social media accounts like little offence archaeologists. They should be policing our streets, not our tweets, which is a fucking given at this point, especially when it comes to London and Sadiq Khan fucking the place up, letting kids get stabbed almost on a daily basis. Free Speech Union's legal chief counsel Brian Harris welcomed the senior court's decision as a positive sign that the senior judiciary will exercise their jurisdiction forcefully and control wayward judges in lower courts who can't seem to remember their ever-present obligation to protect freedom of expression. The judges in this case rightly recalled that the freedom to offend is not constrained by the facile obligation to be kind, muted by the magistrate disgrace below, Harris added. Now obviously, while this is only a small victory, it is a victory nonetheless. Will the social media giants implement it? Of course they fucking won't. You'll still be censored for saying anything that they deem to be slightly spicy. But at least now, if the police come and arrest you, you do have a legal defense should they try and take you to court, which obviously after this they shouldn't, because the CPS will know it will just be a shit show and get thrown out. Let's hope now that the police actually go and do their job and catch serious criminals, not people on Twitter who are offending someone who is just a butthurt little snowflake.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors, slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires, and that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going, and we are glad to be going. We're off.